feel like the people would want to come back. But what a cunning and sly and brilliant the devil is at. Watch. So for all these years, the devil been speaking, not talking about that. The church is doing well, the children's ministry is doing well. When you begin to talk about money, and that would cause people to feel uneasy, and that would push people back. So for all these years, I confess, I've been negligent. I'm sorry for being negligent when it comes to God's financial plan. Not only have I been negligent, but I believe that I've been too silent. You know, many times Warren would pull me aside and Shola would pull me aside and say, when are you going to teach the people? I said, well, just come. No, we come to the Easter, let me talk some Easter messages. Then Brother Warren will meet me sometime in June. When are you going to teach the people? I said, well, you know, we get close to Christmas. Let me get Christmas messages. And I've always been like that. Been like that from Easter to Christmas to the summer holidays. But you know what? I've really been negligent. And I, listen carefully, I am confessing to you, I have been part of the reason because I've not been preaching God's financial plan. I have been part of the reason that some marriages are going sour because of that. I have been part, and I'm confessing because I haven't been doing that. Are you going to see it in the Word of God? I am partly responsible because I have been teaching God's people. I have not been, that some of them fall sick, some of them are diseased and they don't know how to get out of it. I am partly responsible for some of the quarrelings in the home and some of the arguments that have been taking place in the home. I'm partly responsible for some of the health problems that you are having because I have not been teaching on God's financial plan. I've been part of the reason that you cannot think properly. And it doesn't matter what you do, you're failing, you can't even pass. Because God's people don't know about His plan. And when you don't know and when you don't follow His plan, there are consequences that follow. And a number of people have been suffering the consequences partly because the preacher didn't stand up and teach God's people what God has instructed in His Word. So much that some people come to the church. Glenn, they come to the church and they say, oh, this is a nice church. They don't talk about money in this church. They go out, they go out of bounds. And they say, but they don't talk about money in this church. This is a good church to come and to settle down and to anchor. And when I heard, I shook my head. I said, God, what in the world am I portraying? What am I teaching your people? There are a lot of people that are suffering, and a lot of people that are in pain, and a lot of people, hear this, a lot of people have not had their prayers answered. You've been praying all your life for that particular, and you know. And the reason it has not been answered is because we have not been following God's financial plan. I leave my time thinking this. I have so much in my mind. Here's what I'm going to do. This is what personally what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach my children seriously from now. I'm going to teach my children, starting from next week Sunday, every one of them, I have 5 of them. I'm going to teach them how they give to God's work. I'm going to show them what an envelope means, and what they need to put in the envelope. How much money does that, Micah? How much money does mommy give you to go to school? $50? All $50 doesn't belong to you, son. If you're going to follow God's instruction, and if you're going to do well in school, and if you're going to excel in life, all 50 don't belong to you. On Sunday, I'm going to teach him how to give. And you know when you have to do it? When do we give? I'm jumping ahead of myself, way ahead of myself. But you know when we have to? Some people say, what am I going to give? When should I give? Well, God tells us in His Word again. We just read it. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 2 says what? Upon the what? Upon the first day of the week, which is Sunday. That's the day we come. and we give our tithes, and we give our what? Our offerings unto the Lord. Now, I'm sorry, the entire church family, Dickie, everybody, Deva, everybody, Bruno, everybody, I am sorry for being negligent. God said, you teach my people about my plan, and you thinking that the church is going to dwindle, and you thinking that the church is going to fall apart, you teach my plan, and you're going to see how the church will grow. How the church will grow, and people will be strengthened in their faith, and they will put their faith and their trust in me. You do that. I said, Lord, I'm sorry. 26 years of preaching. I'll never ever come to this part in my studies to really teach you God's financial plan. I want to teach you that. Everybody ready? Amen. If you're ready, say amen. 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 Now, this plan, God's plan, is described for us in the law. In the law books, God tells us exactly how to follow his plan. The law was written by a man called Moses. Now, God spoke to Moses, and even the law, God's law, was written by his finger, his own fingers. And what God instructed Moses to write and what God wrote finally came to be a part of the Torah, which is the first 5 books. Genesis, say with me, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. In the law, you're going to see how God's financial plan is described. And we're going to see that. Now, Moses lived 2,500 years after creation. So for 2,500 years from Adam, from 2,500 years down the road, nobody had God's written law or his word. Can you imagine that? For 2,500 years from Adam, straight down to the time when Moses was born, because Moses wrote the law books. Nobody had God's written word. So when the law was given by God to Moses, to the people, then the people understood about the financial, God's financial. But to be for 2,500 years, they didn't know. What were they doing for the first 2,500 years? Did they give to God? Yes. And you find it very interesting. I found it very interesting. Before the law was written down, before it was, would the people give it? Before the law, before God had it written down, but this is what you need to do, you need to tithe before. Well, I find it very interesting. Turn the Bible, please, to Genesis chapter 14. Go Genesis chapter 14. Oh my God. This is before there was a law. Everybody see that? Say before there was a law. I mean, when it was actually written down as law, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tithe. Before the law was written down to tithe, were the people tithing for the first 2,500 years? Okay, now we're going to read something here. What we're going to read here are verses following a war that was fought. A big war was fought with Abraham, and Abraham and his servants had won the war. And after the war, Abraham was coming back with the spoils of the war. Normally when they would have war on both sides, the side that won would take from the other side that lost the spoils. The spoils would be like the jewelry. They would take the people's jewelry, and they would take their brooches and gold and silver and bronze. They would take it back because they won. So Abraham had just won this war. This is before the law. He had just won this war, and he's bringing back the spoils home. And on his way home, he met the priests. Who did he meet? And the priest's name was Melchizedek. Everybody say Melchizedek. Now these verses that we are going to read is when he met Melchizedek. Abraham meeting Melchizedek. Everything that is happening here is happening before the law was written down. Well, let's see what Abraham did, what Melchizedek did. Watch it. Chapter 14, verse 18. Everybody see it? Everybody see it? Good. Watch up here. And Melchizedek, king and priest of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. So, the priest is going to be Abraham, and he's bringing bread and wine for Abraham. And he was the priest. Who was the priest? Everybody, who was the priest? Melchizedek, priest of the Most High God. Verse 19. And he blessed him, Melchizedek, blessed Abraham, and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. Sometimes when you pray, you use his words. Sometimes when you're going to pray for people, you use his words. Blessed are you of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, verse 20. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered you, Abraham, from the hand of your enemies. Watch now. This is the word. Watch now. Before the law. Watch. I find this interesting. Very interesting. And he, Abraham, gave him, the priest, Melchizedek, what? Tithes of all he had. Tithes of the spoils. What he got, he didn't go back home with what he had, all he had. He took out 10% of everything, and he first gave it to the priest. A tithe. Now, where did he learn that? Brother, where did he learn that? Abraham. There was no law that was given yet. Law came after. Where did he learn that? Conscience. That is using the word conscience. I think that's a quite appropriate word, conscience. How could he go up to the priest without having no law, go to the priest and give the priest 10% of all his spoils? He gave because of the dedication of his heart. He was being grateful for the Lord delivering him. He knew that God delivered him from the hands of his enemy, and out of his conscience and a heart of gratitude, he gave the priest how much? How much he gave him? 10%. That warrant I thought was so cool. Because there are people today, G.M.B.C, there are people today who will say, well, tithing is from the Old Testament, Alish. Ready? This is before the days of the law. But tithing is only for the law time. Really? It's only for the law time. This is before law. Let's go to the days of the law then. Let's see what the law has to say about tithing. Let's get right into it. Numbers chapter 18, I believe, right? Everybody read verse 1 and verse 20. Ready? 2, 3.
And the Lord spake unto Aaron, Thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am thy part and thy inheritance among the children of Israel.
I know it's kind of confusing, but in the weeks to come and I explain all that. Alright? What I want to see, or I want you to see is where in the law it says you have to give the 10. This is the law now. We Numbers, the law of God. Numbers 18, God has laid down the law. Read verse 21. And behold,
I give the children of the land all the tithes of Israel for the inheritance. For the service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the covenant.
Wait. The Lord said, the children of Israel, all the other tribes, the 12 of you, from your crops, from your produce, you're going to plant, you're going to have produce. Don't take all for yourself. The tribe called Levi, I want you to give them 1/10 of your crops and your produce. Why? For their service which they serve. Even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. Verse 22. I read that. Everybody watch it. Neither was the children of Israel henceforth come nigh the tabernacle of the congregation, lest there be a sin and they die. The other tribes, you don't come. Only the Levite tribe come close and in the tabernacle. And I will give them no land, no inheritance in Levi. So they don't have land to settle down. But I want you who have the land and you plant the crops, 10% of that goes to the priestly tribe, the Levite tribe. Next verse. Look at verse 24. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as a heave offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit, Therefore I said unto them, among the children of Israel, they shall have no inheritance. Notice the word tithes is bubbled up over and over in the law. Give them the 10%. Let's move on. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, thus spake unto the Levites, say unto them, when you take of the children of Israel the tithes, when they give you, watch this now. When the priestly tribe receive a tithe, you think the tithe belongs to them? All of it or what? When you receive it, the tithes, which I have commanded you from them for your inheritance, then you shall offer up a heap offering of it for the Lord, even a 10th part of the tithe. So when the priest gets his tithe, or the Levite know they have to take their tithe and bring it to the priest or bring it into the temple. As I said, later on, I do more for this. The next one, we have more. And then we go on again, and some auntie brother Ramsey will sing that song about the best. The word best out of all your gifts. When you bring and offer every heap offering of the Lord, make sure you bring your best. Of all the best thereof, even the hallowed part thereof, out of it. That's the law. Again, later on I'll teach you the law. We're going to go into the meaty part of the law. So the tithe, you see them given before. You see this instructed in the law to give of the tithe. What about God's financial plan has what? The tithe and what it has again? What it has again? Which one is obligated? Which one is required? I mean, it is demanded by the law. Which one? What about free offering? Is that demanded? No. So how you give? Out of what? Out of your heart. The movement of your heart. The state of your spirit. You know, after people give 10% of their salary, so to speak, and special projects are mentioned in the church and mentioned back then, you think people would give? You think people's heart would be moved to give to God's word? I want to show you an example. When the Lord told Moses, I want to build my tabernacle. I want to build the temple. And it's going to be a house of worship and a house of praise. And I want you to mention it to the people that they have to build the tabernacle after they give up the tithe. I wanted them to do that. You think that they would give a free will offering? This is not the tithe. This is an offering now. Let's show you. Look at that. Exodus 25. Free will offering removed from tithe into offering. What's it now? You read that verse 1 of verse 2. Ready? On 3. 2, 3. And the Lord
spake unto Moses, saying,
speak to them.
the children of Israel, that they bring their offering.
Oh, wait. They bring what? Is it the tithe or the free will? The free will. This is not the tithe. Now God is telling Moses to speak to his people to bring an offering. Okay, read on. Off. Watch it and learn, please. I'm begging you. I'm begging everybody, watch and learn. God is now telling them, Moses, speak to the people, tell them to bring an offering for me. I told you it was out of the heart of every man when he gives it what? Willingly with his heart. Moses said, all right, God, you tell me, I'm going to tell the people. Let's see, next verse. Oh, this is what they have to bring. God told Moses, tell the people, this is the offering I want. And this is the offering which you shall take of them. Tell them, bring gold, silver, brass, blue, purple, scarlet, fine linen, goat's hair, and it goes on and on and on. Tell them, bring their gold, bring their silver, bring their brass, bring oil, bring spices, bring fine linen, because I have to build the temple of the church. And the people are going to do it. People, where they're going to get? The people, God said, instruct Moses, instruct the people, tell them to do it for me. I want that. They already paid their tithe. They already given 10% of the produce and the crops to the Lord, and now a free will offering. Onyx stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate. Oh, go and read it. Let's move on, 25. And let them, this is the purpose, and let them make me a what? That I may do what? Tell them to bring it, and we'll have the men and the women come in, and they'll be given the time and the talents to build me a sanctuary that I may dwell among. Did the people bring? Moses went and sent the news Back to the people next time. I think that's chapter 35. I'm sorry, chapter 35. So Moses went to the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Lord commanded. And exactly what the Lord told Moses to tell the people. In chapter 35, Moses is telling the people, this is the thing which the Lord commanded, saying, verse 5, take you from among you an offering unto the Lord. Whosoever is of a what? Only if you're willing. This is not a type. If your heart willing, if your heart is moved, then bring it. Whosoever is of a willing heart, let them bring it, an offering to the Lord, gold, silver, brass, and it goes on, next verse. And they came, both men, did they bring it? Watch before we go home. And they came, men and women, as many as were of a what heart? How much time Moses saying, Lord, if your heart moves, if your heart is willing, if you're willing, then bring it. If you don't willing, don't bring nothing. If you're willing, bring it. If your heart is stirred, if the Spirit is moving your heart, then bring it. Watch, as many as were of a willing heart. And they brought it, bracelets, earrings, rings, tablets, jewels, gold, and every man that offered an offering of gold unto the Lord. Are you getting the picture? If you get the picture, say amen. God told Moses, I need to build my tabernacle, where I can come and dwell and let the people build it. Moses gave the people instruction to bring the materials. Did they bring the materials? Moses said, only if your heart is willing. Over and over. It's like Moses trying to drive home the point. If your heart is willing, then bring. If your spirit is stirred, then bring. Did they bring? Yeah, did they bring? Now, can I tell you something here? Chico, it is. Ramsu, I have found, Brother Wesley, I have found in my studies of the scripture, I have found that when a free will offering is being picked up for the Lord, people with willing heart, I have found that they give more than the tithe. God expected under the law, this is under the law, He expected His people to give a 10%, and then on special occasions to give what? Free will offerings, then every third year to give a special offering again. Now hear this, let me shock you here now. Every week under the law, when the people give, you know how much they would give? On an average, it's something for you to write down. On an average, they didn't give 10% a week. On an average, God's children gave between 20 to 25% of their income to the Lord. How much? 20 to 25% after giving all the free will offering for special needs and special projects. It summed up to 20 and 25%. Did they give on top of the tithe? Let's read on. I'm watching my time, don't worry. Look, Moses said again, and all the women have a tendency to give a lot. Their heart is stirred more than men. And all the women whose hearts stirred them up in wisdom spun goat's hair, working with their hand for the building of God's house. Keep moving. The children of Israel brought a willing offering. How many times you want to hear the word willing? Willing, free will offering, willing, heart willing offering unto the Lord. Every man, woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all manner of work, which the Lord had commanded to be made by the hand of Moses. Don't leave here. Follow me. Did they bring?
Amen, yes.
I want to show you something. Let's assume this is an illustration. Let's assume that I say, you know what? I want to build a shed. What I want to build? By me, I want to build a shed. So I didn't tell anybody in church, but I just was talking to Brigo and I said, Brigo, you can put a little shed